Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of The Camera. I hope you guys checked out my last video. If you haven't checked it out, it's in the video section. I'm talking about the kind of like a metaphysical beginning of the universe pretty much. And in this one I'm going to be talking about, it's going to be pretty basic, pretty straightforward topic. The beginning of or the end of life, pretty much. What happens at the end of life, which is a very philosophical question. Philosophers keep delving into. Religions have pretty much built their whole religion on this, pretty much this topic. It's kind of like a safe haven people always want to address, because that's one of the biggest fears of humanity, figuring out what happens at death, pretty much. The way I see it, if you know a little bit of, there's this thing called the golden ratio, which is an interesting thing. It's in a pretty interesting topic of it in itself. You can do some research on your own on what the golden ratio is. It's kind of like a persistent force in the universe. Like all plant matter, all plants kind of follow this golden ratio per se. Like sunflowers, they follow it. Trees, the way the body is made, our facial features. Da Vinci kind of touched on it. The Fibonacci sequence. It's kind of like that same thing. I think that it's not just persistent in nature. I think it's persistent in the universe itself. For example, like if you throw a rock in the air, that escalation follows a Fibonacci sequence, I think. Like you throw it as hard as you can, it comes with the hardest force, fastest speed, and it just slows down exponentially until it reaches its peak, and then it's at zero velocity at that moment. And it just keeps getting faster, faster, and faster, and I think that follows a Fibonacci sequence, and maybe even the golden ratio, I think. It applies to everything, pretty much. And I think it applies to one of the most interesting questions about humans, which is the afterlife. Because we all want to believe there's more to life, We don't want to believe that you die and that's it. Just black out, no. There's been, testimony of near-death experiences, pretty much. What people consider when they die, they always see like a tunnel and all this. I'm going to be covering what happens after you go through that tunnel. Because most people, when they have that near-death experience, they don't go through that tunnel. They never make it through, pretty much. I think when you die, you follow a Fibonacci sequence, a similar Fibonacci sequence, but it's similar Fibonacci sequence, but it's not. You know this as the pi pretty much, which is 3.14, etc., etc., etc. I think that's what life is when you die. To explain it further, I guess you can say pi is 3 is 1, 2, 3.14. It never reaches 4, and that's where my theory on the afterlife is. I think when you're dying, that's what it is. You're dying at 3.14, but you never reach the number 4. And there's this similar theory in not a similar, but kind of backs up what I'm trying to say. It's called relativity. Einstein famously created it. It pretty much boils down to your perception of time is unique to you. So if you have someone that goes on a rocket and goes to outer space, goes to Mars and comes back, and then you sit on your couch, through that whole time, you will be older than the person that went on the rocket. The same amount of time has passed. Objectively, the same amount of time has passed. But one of you has perceived time to be less, and one of you has perceived time to be longer. You will perceive time to have been longer to them who were in that rocket. Now, at that distance, it's probably like maybe a second. It's not going to be a lot. But in the conception of time or death, I think that exponentially increases. So you can think of the movie Inception. They kind of delved into this perfectly, because Inception is very rooted in the reality of dreams. And that is that the further in your dream, time slows down. I've had dreams where I thought that I've been asleep for 8 hours, and it's only been like 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. But to me, it felt like days even. But it was actually just a few hours. It wasn't even that long. And I was like, I couldn't have been asleep for days. It must have been 8 hours. I must have slept the whole night. Looked at the clock, 2 hours. That was max. Inception kind of covers that one pretty beautifully, where they go into a dream and then time slows down, right? They get on a plane, and then they put these machines on, and then they dream for like an hour, right? They get in the first dream, and then they have to go deeper. They have to create another dream within that dream. That next dream has become slower than the one before it. And then they have to go into another dream within that dream. And it just keeps getting slower and slower and slower, to the point where 1 second or like a few seconds in real life, in that dream, like at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, they have Leonardo DiCaprio, the character of Leonardo DiCaprio, has lived hundreds of years, has been lost at sea for 100 years, and like the other character is like an old man, but he is in a dream. Time has gone so much slow that he has aged to become an old man within a dream, and then when they all wake up, it's only been 1 hour in the plane trip. And I think that's what at the end of your life comes down to. You, like, let's say for example, you die, right? Someone puts a bullet through your head or something. Someone is watching you die, right? They're watching you go 1 second. And let's say you only survive 4 seconds, right? Let's say the brain, I think, stays alive for 15 seconds, or 30 seconds. It doesn't last very long, but it lasts a little bit, and that gives you enough time for your brain to make up a dream, I think. Now let's say it's only 4 seconds. Your brain only stays alive for 4 seconds, as an example. Someone puts a bullet through your head, they watch you fall down, and they look at you counting 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. At number 4, you're dead. You're out. Nothing. To you, because you're in that dream, you go through that light tunnel, you're hearing 1. You go through it. You think you go into this perception of reality where, let's say for example, you think you were being reborn, right? You think that light tunnel is actually you being reborn again in a hospital. You're reborn, right? You have your age, and then you're turning 5 years old. You're still dreaming, and you're perceiving reality for what it is, because you're still going through that perception of relativity where time is specific to you and not to the outside observer. It's only to you. You're perceiving it to be faster than when it is. So you're fitting a lot of life, essentially, into this short time span because of relativity, because of your perception of relativity. You're 5 years old, you get 10 years old, you go to school, you go everything, right? Get married, and you have kids, and then you die. 2 seconds. You've already lived a whole life. Then you think you die again of old age or something, and you think you're being reborn again. And then you have another life. You're being reborn again. And then you have another life, and you die of old age again. And you're still not even at 3. You're still like 2 seconds and 2.1 seconds. And you're reborn again. And in that life, you die again. And then you're reborn again. And then you go through your whole life again. 2 seconds and 3.3. Then you're reborn again. You keep going over and over and over. You just keep having life after life. Your perception of time gets incrementally slower and slower and slower. 3, right? At 3, you've already lived 100 lives. You keep going. We're being reborn and reborn and reborn. 1. 3.1. You die again. You keep living and you keep living. 3.14. You see where I'm going? You keep going in the sequence of pi into infinity, but you will never be able to reach number 4. Your conception of time will go on forever, but you will never be able to reach number 4. In the real world, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Gone. You're no longer there. To you, it's still 3.14. Dun, 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 dun. You are billions of digits within pi. You will never end. And I think that's what life is. I think it's a pretty beautiful concept. I think it kind of makes sense. Dreams work in this way is the same deal. There's not much philosophy to it. It's kind of cynical almost. And if you say it's cynical, then they have this to tell you. If in that last thought you have, you've been a good person. That's why I believe karma is important. If in that last moment of your life, you're having good thoughts, you're like, oh my God, I got killed. But you don't think further past that. Or you've been a good person and you just feel good thoughts as you're going. Because people say they feel an almost sense of ecstasy, extreme happiness. It's almost kind of inevitable that you will feel some type of connection to the universe or something. And if you feel like you deserve heaven and you don't even go to these other lives, you see that tunnel and you think you're in heaven, then you will go into heaven for eternity, pretty much. 3.14 for eternity. You will go into heaven for eternity. But if in those last moments you're having negative thoughts, you think, I don't deserve this, I did this bad, self-pity, self-loathing, then you will be putting yourself in a situation where you will be in a nightmare. Now, we've all had nightmares, and the one thing you want to do in a nightmare is you want to wake up. Well, you can't wake up from this dream because this is your last dream. Will be the last one you have. And if in that last dream you're having a nightmare, you're having self-loathing, you're having negative thoughts, then you will be in a nightmare forever, pretty much. So you kind of doomed yourself to hell. That's why I think the conception of hell and heaven is kind of real. Because if in your last thoughts you're having negative thoughts, then you might go into a nightmare of which you will never wake up from. And that is eternal damnation. That will be self-damnation, pretty much. You are punishing yourself for your own self-loathing and self-pity. And I think there's something poetic about that, because your life is what you make it, and your conception of life is what you make it. You know, your idea of existence and what you find meaningful and what you perceive to be real is what is real. For example, you know, like you get road rage. That person didn't give you road rage. Now, it sounds weird to say it like that, but that person didn't throw road rage at you and you caught it. He did something to you and you reacted in a sense of rage. You are the one producing rage within you. And if you don't want to feel rage, if you just don't feel rage, you're not enraged. You got home, someone cut me off. That's it. There is no rage. You created rage because that is what you created in your existence, and you made it a reality of yourself. And in your life, and at the end of your life, that is what you would be doing. So that is a pretty fringe concept that I thought of, and I thought I'd come up here because this is a channel talking about the weird stuff of existence, about life and all that. And I thought it would be interesting to tell you guys what I think and what you guys think about it, and if it makes any sense, if it has some grains of truth to it. And it's just a philosophical, it's kind of like a brainstorming kind of deal, you know what I mean? It's nothing like it's hardcore, this is what it is. It's just a philosophical mind experiment, pretty much. If you agree with me, or if you have any thoughts on it, please tell me in the comments below. I will check it out. I'll leave in a reply to you. If you have your own theories about what happens at the end of life, or what's the idea of the end of life, what actually goes down, or how you perceive reality and all that, please let me know. I'm interested to know about all those sort of things and what people think, because this, I've never heard someone describe it the way I have described it to you. This idea of pi, 3.14, and it never reaches number 4. And that is your perception of your dream when you die. I never heard someone say that, so I thought it would be interesting for you guys to hear it, and maybe I hit home with you in some way where you feel like this guy makes sense a little bit. What he's saying is making sense. And I hope you check out my other video where I talk about similar subjects, about the creation of the universe with my own idea of how it got created, always using some type of science, some type of philosophy or something like that, metaphysics or something. Tell me if you got any other topics you want to cover. In my next video, I'm probably going to be talking about psychopathy and how they've kind of almost infiltrated themselves into culture, and how culture itself has become not like a safe haven, but has become a way for them to succeed and get further in life, pretty much. It's almost kind of like the modern society has set itself up towards where psychopaths succeed, and that's because they're just made like that. Modern culture has become a culture of sensationalism, and they have made it for themselves. I'm going to be talking about interesting personalities in the past and in today that have kind of used this to their advantage, and how their manipulation and charisma has attracted us all, and the sensationalism that comes from it, the almost devilish attraction that they put out there, that it's almost too good for TV to ignore. We're talking about personalities like Ted Bundy, for example, that despite killing so many people, his charisma, the sensationalism of an attractive man being just a rampant murderer, rapist, it was just too good for the media to ignore. So, and how he almost got away with it. He almost got away with doing those horrendous crimes. And it is directly attributed to the fact that the media itself, it's not their fault. It's just the nature of it is made for people like him. And if he would have played his cards right a little bit different, he would have gotten away with it. Not because the court failed, but because the court of public opinion, he had manipulated it in such a way where his own psychopathy helped him. But at the end of the day, it was his own psychopathy that brought him down. There will come a time, though, when we won't be able to tell, because he was sloppy. He wasn't too sloppy, but he was a little bit too sloppy at the same time. There will come a time where there will be a batch of psychopaths that will not be sloppy. And that's how you will end up with very bad people out there influencing a lot of the culture, and we are just not aware of it. But we're going to be talking about the ones that we are aware of and it's just obvious. But yeah, I'm going to save all that for the topic, and I hope you can stay tuned for that video. Check out the other video and give me more topics, and comment and like it and subscribe and hit that bell icon so you know when I get new videos out. Okay guys, thank you, and stay tuned for more. Appreciate you. Sending love and appreciation your way.